As we wrap up week 25 of the 2025 fantasy baseball season, I've got 10 players you must add to your team, including Daulton Varsho of the Toronto Blue Jays, who's been on an extreme heater recently. And I've got two starting pitchers named Emmet, Sheehan and Civale, and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominick Martino, riding solo today, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It's going to subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things on a platform like Apple or Spotify, that allows you 5-star ratings and reviews. We truly appreciate it if you can do that for us as well. And lastly, and what's going to help you win your fantasy baseball league is joining Matt and I on the Insiders Track. I know this time of year gets a little boring with fantasy baseball. You know, you're getting interested in football. Listen, so am I. So let Matt and I do the heavy lifting for you by joining us on the Insiders Track, where you're going to get instant call-up notifications of the next big group of prospects as soon as they get called up. And when we do our waiver wire episodes like these, we're going to rank these guys for you and tell you how you're prioritizing them when you're picking them up, so it makes life so much easier for you guys. And once again, you're going to find the link in the bio if you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms if you want to join us on the Insiders Track. And guys, 10 must-add players. You know the routine around here at this point in the week. We're just trying to get you a couple names to help you win this weekend, maybe, in the future. We'll see how it goes, right? But I want to start today's episode off with Daulton Varsho of the Toronto Blue Jays. Listen, he's back, and he's been, pretty good of late, right? So, since he's been back, he has played 4 games. In these 4 games, he has gone 5 for 16, not too bad, with 3 homers, 10 RBIs, and 3 runs. So he's been fantastic since returning. We know Varsho at this point, a lot of pop in that bat. He's hit 6th in this Blue Jays lineup. And listen, the Blue Jays have been really, really good of late. They scored 20 runs. In their stint in Colorado across 3 games, they scored 45 runs. In 3 games. Yes, I'm not lying. It's 45 runs over the last 3 games for the Blue Jays in Toronto. For the Blue Jays in Colorado. They've been really, really hot. So we need to add Varsho now. He is 12% owned on Yahoo. He has outfield eligibility. And listen, Varsho, he's never going to be that guy he was, with the Diamondbacks where, almost had a couple 2020 years, right? Even with the Blue Jays, actually, almost had a 2020 year back in 2023, right? And last season, he wasn't so bad, but the batting average has consistently gone downhill. Last year, Varsho had 18 homers, 10 steals, 73 runs, hit 214, and that was over 136 games. So we know there's some pop in that bat, can steal a bag here or there. Batting average isn't going to be great. So for Varsho specifically, we're not doing it in super shallow leagues. I'd say anything. Your regular 12-mans, you can give Varsho a shot. As a bench player, if you need some pop, you need a couple RBIs. He has 30 RBIs in 28 games played on the season this year. Daulton Varsho does. So definitely going to help you out in that department. And also 11 homers in 28 games is not too shabby either. So I believe in the power for Varsho because if you look at the underlying stuff, he has a great X slug. He has, a great barrel percentages, finding the sweet spot on that ball pretty well too. The bat speed looks nice. And then Varsho himself is in, the 63rd percentile of sprint speed, which just means he's actually pretty quick, especially for his size. 5'8", 207. Wouldn't expect him moving that quick. But Varsho's a nice little ad here. Like I said, definitely going to be helpful in situations for where you need home runs and RBIs. And a sneaky steal every now and then. But let's keep things pushing. We talked about this guy not too long ago, but you know what? He's back on the episode because he's still not highly enough owned. It's Andrew Vaughn. Finally got out of, Chicago, the White Sox, that is. He's over there in Milwaukee now, and Andrew Vaughn has literally been on a fantastic tear since he's gotten over to Milwaukee. He's been on a nice little hit streak since July 25th. That's about 10, 12 games there. For Vaughn, they've moved him up to the third spot, and cleanup is where he's been consistently hitting for at least the last 5 games. Andrew Vaughn is pretty much a must-add at this point in the year. 69 games played, hitting 240, 22 runs, 11 homers, 45 RBIs. But most of that production has come since he's gone to Milwaukee. And I believe he's only been there. Let me fact check this. I think he's been there about 20 games or so as I'm looking this up. But Vaughn was just somebody I wish Luis Robert got the opportunity that Vaughn got to get off the White Sox and go play for a team, that's competing, right? So it's been, I almost nailed it. It's been 21 games to be precise in Milwaukee for Andrew Vaughn. Over that time, it's 73 at-bats, 13 runs, 27 hits, 4 doubles, 6 homers, 26 RBIs, 10 walks to 11 strikeouts, and he's hitting 370. Andrew Vaughn's still fairly young. He's 27. I don't think he's going to break out and be a fantasy stud, but could he hit 275 the rest of the way with some pop, good amount of RBIs? Yeah, for sure. Andrew Vaughn's first base eligible, 49% owned on Yahoo. A nice little ad here. Going into the final stretch of the season. I think he's going to be productive. I think the batting average is going to stick. I can't really isolate, all the stuff for the underlying stuff since he's gotten to Milwaukee, but I guarantee all of it looks pretty good. So, Andrew Vaughn, nice little ad here. Nice little ad. Let's sneak one more bat in here. Let's talk about Josh Young. Man, we've been talking about him all season. He's just been hurt and disappointing, right? But you know what? It seems like he's healthy again. And before, he had the little mishap, he had that calf issue, before that had another injury thing, right? But he had a nice little stretch from July 21st to July 30th where he was on a hit streak, about little 10-game hit streak there for Josh Young, where he had 2 homers, 5 RBI or 6 RBIs. 6 RBIs and 6 runs. So he was productive over that time, right? And, got, that calf issue going on, came back on August 4th, went 2 for 4 with a home run, 3 RBIs, 2 runs. And Young's numbers on the years aren't, really indicative of how good of a player he is. 85 games played on the year, 252 average, 33 runs, 11 homers, 43 RBIs, 4 steals. He's got pop in the bat, got run and RBI potential depending on where he's hitting in this Texas lineup. Just somebody who's underperformed due to injury, which isn't uncommon. We see it happen a lot. I think if Young could stay healthy during this final stretch, he's going to be relevant. He's going to be fantasy relevant for sure. Third base eligible, 30% owned, plays for those Texas Rangers. Of course, that is Josh Young once again. And we need to at least give him a shot because of the prospect pedigree. The kid's always crushed it in the minors and, was pretty good in the majors, helped Texas, down the stretch in the playoffs a couple of years ago, right? So I think we need to add him too. At 30% owned, I think he needs to be around 65, 70 just to see what he can do down the stretch here. Because if Josh Young gets it going, has an Austin Riley-ish profile with a little bit of speed there too, to be honest, at the third base position. But before we move on and talk about a couple young guys like Jacob Marsee and Lenyn Sosa, and what's going on with Emmet Sheehan, man, has he got that rotation spot or not? Those names and more coming up next. And all right, guys, I need to talk to you about my friends over at Prize Picks. And listen, the daily fantasy, they're the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up and college football isn't far behind. It's the perfect time to lock your season-long, more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before week 1 kicks off, right? Whether you got your eyes on big-name quarterbacks or breakouts or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the game. Me personally, I've already made a few of my season-long picks, and one that I personally love, and I think it's pretty much a lock, is Josh Allen for more than 27.5 touchdowns, and like I said, feels like a solid shot. Preseason picks help me get a feel for how the year could go. It's like a fun warm-up for the full season. The flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still doubled your money, right? Download the Prize Pick app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. And all right, guys, one more time before we keep things pushing. I know I was just talking about football, right? Come on, it's everywhere at this point. And if you need something to help keep you motivated, that's going to be an easy little tool to help you win your fantasy baseball league. It's going to be joining Matt and I on the Insiders Track. Listen, it's going to be instant call-up notifications going right to your phone through text messaging alerts. Nobody else in the industry is offering that. So, you're just going to be sitting there. You might even be focused on football. You're going to get a little text message from Matt and I telling you, hey, Bubba Chandler just got called up, or Kevin McGonigal just got called up. Go add them. Be simple as that. You'll beat everyone to the waiver wire for those guys. And then when we do episodes like this, we're talking about waiver wire guys. We're going to rank them, send that right to your phone. So bang, 10 players ranked that you should pick up, the order you need to add them in. It's as easy as that and helps you win your fantasy baseball league. So join Matt and I on the Insiders Track. The link is in the bio wherever you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. So let's keep things moving, guys. Let's move on to this next player, and let's talk about some Jacob Marsee, right? So with Jacob Marsee, he's playing outfield for those Miami Marlins. And, since he's gotten the call, man, he has been really, really good through his first 5 games. Marsee is hitting .500 with 3 runs, a homer, and 3 RBIs. Marsee was a breakout prospect a couple of years ago. I remember he had a great Arizona Fall League. I forget whether it was 2024. I want to go out on a limb and say it was. But, he has a good little, profile. I've seen him play, a couple times down in the minors, and just really love what he can bring to the table. Got a little bit of pop, but he's more known for his speed. Not going to really hit a lot of tanks there in Miami, but he could hit for some average. He could hit for a little bit of power. Like I said, not too much in Miami, but he can go out there and steal some bases. He actually had 47 steals down in the minors before he got the call this year. Last season, he had 51 steals. So, and he had 10 home runs last year, hit 14 this year. So, like I said, there is a little bit of power in that bat. Not sure how well it's going to play in Miami. So could he be like a 8 to 10 homer guy with like a 30, 40 steal profile? Definitely. The average, though, is, kind of what has me a little bit worried. He hit 200 in 2024. He had 246 last year, but did hit 391 in 2023. Actually, that was the year he had the monster Arizona Fall League, because that's what I'm looking at. Hit 274 the year before that, had a bunch of 300 batting average seasons. Marsee's 24, though, so, getting a little bit older for a prospect. I'd say 250-ish batting average, bunch of speed, already has that one bomb, which did come in Miami. So, maybe I'm wrong about the power there. So I'd add him. He's an outfielder, as I said earlier, 5% owned on Yahoo. This is more of an NL-only 15-man, 5 outfielder kind of play with a guy like Jacob Marsee. But, there is upside there, as I talked about. A lot of speed potential if they just let the kid run loose. He's been batting 6th in this lineup. Not much holding him back in Miami from moving up in this lineup if he's productive. So Jacob Marsee, once again, outfielder, recently got the call for those Miami Marlins. Let's talk about somebody who's probably a little bit older than I think he is, and that's Lenyn Sosa of the Chicago White Sox. We know it's a place where, a lot of players have not been productive this season. That has not been the case for Sosa. He has been pretty good through his 96 games played, 281 batting average, 36 runs, 12 homers, 44 RBIs, 2 steals. He's 26% owned on Yahoo, and then Lenyn Sosa is eligible at first, second, and third. And he's been on a real heater here of late. Since July 28th, he went 3 for 3 with a run and RBI. After that, on July 29th, went 2 for 4 with a homer, 2 RBIs. July 30th, he didn't even start the game, Sosa, but went 2 for 2 off the bench with a run and RBI. August 1st, 2 for 3 with a homer, 2 RBIs, and has had a hit in every game since, including on August 5th, where he went 1 for 4 with another homer. Ride the waiver here with Sosa. Plays every infield position except shortstop, right? So you love to see that. I'm actually curious how Sosa is. I feel like I've been looking at Sosa. I remember when Sosa first got drafted, and people were pretty excited about him. He's actually still pretty young at 25 years old. So could have made a few changes, could be kind of coming into his own. And like I said, had some prospect pedigree. I'm kind of want to dig in with you guys to the underlying stuff to, see if it's backing up a lot of what he's doing. Yeah, batting average is pretty legit. Not really a big, huge power guy, at 5'11", 210. But you know what? Could be a 18-ish homer guy. The counting stats are not going to be great because he plays for the Cubs. Sprint speed, not really great either, so I don't expect Sosa to, steal too many more bags. But if he can grab you one here or there, finish the year at 5, wouldn't be horrible. So I'm adding Sosa, especially if I need that infield help. First, second, and third, you have him on your bench. You could just plug and play if somebody has the day off in those daily leagues. Weekly leagues, if you get somebody that gets banged up, you're not sure if he's going to play, you plug him in there, stuff like that. Don't necessarily think he's going to be a starter for you maybe in 15 mans where he's available. Sosa's been really good all year, so it would be tough for me to see him being available in 15s. But if he is, he's 26% owned on Yahoo. I'd go and snag him there. Yeah. So let's move on. Let's get into some pitching here. And excuse me, folks, one sec. Appreciate it. Doing all the talking. Matt had the last couple of days off. Actually, shout out to my brother Matt. He's in Japan right now, doing big things out there. So let's move on though. Let's get into pitching. Let's talk about Phil Maton, right? Goes over at the trade deadline to those Texas Rangers, right? And he's closing over there now. He's pretty much got the gig. I think if I remember correctly, Robert Garcia, he's dealing with a back issue. So, it kind of looks like Maton could be the guy. I personally think that Maton's better than Garcia. Maton on the year, 43 appearances, a win, 3 saves, 2.18 ERA, 109 whip, 41 innings pitched, 51 strikeouts. So, it could be a nice little add here. I don't think he's going to be in a great spot with Texas to get a bunch of saves, but he'll grab some here or there. I could see them, mixing Garcia in here and there, but he's got the last save. He's got 3 on the year, really good numbers. I think Maton is somebody we could invest in if you missed out on all the other bigger names that got impacted from the trade deadline. He's not a bad option. The underlying stuff actually it was really, really good for Maton. Has really good stuff. Isn't a big fastball, but it gets good movement. So that works for him. The only pitch that is getting hit higher than a 213 batting average is a sweeper, the one he throws 16% of the time. But his curveball and his cutter, which he throws combined about 70% of the time, a 143 batting average against on the curveball, 213 on the cutter. Love to see that from, a reliever. And, he like I said, he's been having a pretty good year. Relievers, it's a year-to-year thing normally with some of these guys, right? Sometimes you'll see when they go out there, they'll have a good year, they're going to be great going into the next year. I think guys like Jose Leclerc and stuff like that you just buy in, and then the next year they're not really doing it anymore. We could at least add Maton for now if you need the saves. There's a couple leagues I snagged him in just to, see where the thing goes, and I think you guys should do the same. But before we move on and we talk about the rest of these pitchers, I got names like Emmet, Sheehan, Aaron Civale, and more coming up next. And all right, guys, as we move on here, I want to talk to you about my friends over at Game Time. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of the ballpark food, right? It's amazing. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as the game time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Guys, if you're trying to do a spontaneous game night, me and the girlfriend do it all the time. We grab some last minute tickets from Game Time. They always have unbeatable prices, which means more money for food and merch. And if you guys know me, I love me some merch, right? With their Game Time Picks feature, when you're using this feature, it makes finding the best deals effortless. It filters out the fluff and highlights the top discounts in the stadium. And they're one of their my favorite features that they have there as well is their the seat view before you buy. You get to preview the exact seat that you're going to be sitting in before you purchase it, so no bad surprises when you get to the stadium. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price is always guaranteed. And all right, guys, let's keep it going. Let's talk about some Emmet Sheehan, man. He's been pretty solid, since he's been here in the bigs. 5 starts, 3 wins, a 3 ERA, 120 whip, 30 innings pitched, 31 strikeouts. But I just don't think Sheehan's unleashed everything that he has. I don't think we've seen the best version of Emmet Sheehan in the bigs yet. He's an absolute strikeout machine, an artist. He has a great arsenal of pitches. Like I said, we just haven't seen it on full display yet here in the bigs. He's got a nice little 4-seam fastball, sits about 96, gets it up higher than that. The slider is like a wipeout kind of slider. He throws that 26% of the time. Has a nice changeup that keeps hitters off balance. Throws that pitch 20% of the time. And then actually has a nice, really big curveball too, right? And that's a pitch he throws 7% of the time. I really like the mix for the kid. Had one really, really bad start against Milwaukee on July 19th. Every other start's been pretty good. I know the start on July 30th, he had a little bit of trouble with the pitch count, only went 3.2 innings, but he's been good. The Dodgers will Dodger. I don't see Sheehan having a huge workload the rest of the way, but if we could get some good quality 5-6 inning starts, I think as Sheehan gets his feel for the bigs here, we're going to see a lot more strikeouts. Sheehan, for me, if I could see him as a nice late round pick next year if he has a spot in the Dodgers rotation. Maybe it's with somewhere else. Don't know. He just has a lot of upside. The talent's there. Good pitches, good stuff. Only 25% owned on Yahoo. And then in his last start, didn't even mention 5 innings against the Cardinals, got the win, 5 strikeouts, no earned runs, had a 1 whip. It looks like his next start is going to be against the Angels. Super excited to see that one. Nice little matchup there. Really just Mike Trout, and he hasn't been having a great season, so I think it's a very manageable lineup. I think we add Sheehan now. I think there's going to be some big strikeout games down the stretch. He's good at managing, the runs, keeping runners off base. Like I said, only really one bad start here in the bigs. You see that 120 whip, and you're like, oh, well, that's not great. Every game this season, he's had only 2 games with a 115 whip or higher. It's the game on July 19th where he had a 267 whip in that one. And then on July 6th, his second start in the bigs had a 120 whip. So every other game's been lower than that, been absolutely amazing, right? Awesome potential here for Emmet Sheehan. So I'd pick him up now before the start with the Angels. Could be a breakout start in the majors here for the kid. Let's keep things going. Let's move on to Aaron Civale, right? I don't know if you guys had seen this. I got a little backstory here on Aaron Civale. We all know, and if you don't know, he pitches for the White Sox now, came over from the Milwaukee Brewers. The day he got traded to the Brewers, right, or the day that he got sent over to the Brewers, from the Brewers to the White Sox, Brewers posted, it was Aaron Civale's birthday, posted happy birthday, Aaron Civale. A couple hours later, Civale asked for the release or trade. I forgot exactly how it went down. Later that day or the next day, wound up on the White Sox. But Civale's been really good, since going over to the White Sox, especially in his last 3 starts. His last 3 starts for Civale on July 20th against the Pirates, 6 innings, got the win, 6 strikeouts, no earned runs, 0.67 whip in that one. On July 26th, 5 innings against the Cubs, 6 strikeouts, no earned runs, 0.6 whip. Against the Angels on August 2nd, 6.1 innings, got the win, 8 strikeouts, no earned runs, 0.47 whip. And Civale gets a little revenge game on August 8th against his old team, the Cleveland Guardians. At 14% owned, Civale on the year is having pretty good numbers. 14 games started, 3 wins, 3.99 ERA, 1.26 WHIP, 70 innings, 56 strikeouts. Not a bad little option at the end of your rotation, especially in deeper leagues where he's definitely out there. Like I said, 14% owned for Civale. He goes on stretches like this where it's not only 2 or 3 starts. Civale does this his whole career where he'll go on an 8-9 start stretch where he looks like a very useful starting pitcher, and he is during these stretches. I could see it. I could see him keeping it riding, especially for this next start here in against Cleveland. So I'd at least add him for that with the upside of Aaron Civale being useful down the stretch here, going we're getting close to those fantasy baseball playoffs. I know a lot of leagues only have about 4, 5, 6 weeks left in the regular season. So, as we get into it here, Civale might be somebody who can keep this going, down the stretch. So I'd go out there and add him where you need to have the use for a starting pitcher. Let's move on to Noah Cameron. I'll just say it. Noah Cameron's a little bit more highly owned than, we'd like to talk about, but he's still under that 60% threshold that we like to stay under. He's at 58%. But Noah Cameron should just be like 90% owned at this point. I know he's had some more downs than ups, since the All-Star break. But, he's still having a good season, man. Still 15 starts, 5 wins, 2.68 ERA, 101 WHIP, 87 innings, 72 strikeouts. He goes up against this depleted Minnesota Twins team on the 9th who traded away pretty much everybody at this point except Byron Buxton. So I think it's going to be a nice start for a kid, who hasn't, his last start wasn't good against Toronto, but Toronto's been tough. Had a good start against Cleveland on July 27th, 5 innings, 6 strikeouts, no earned runs, 0.8 WHIP. Was bad against Chicago before that. Was really good against the Mets. Had a nice little stretch of 3 good starts from July 2nd to July 13th where he played the Mets, Pittsburgh, and Seattle. So it's not like he's been useless of late. There's been a couple of bad starts, but this matchup on August 9th against Minnesota looks really nice for Noah Cameron. So at 58% owned, and he's down 7% owned over the past couple of days on Yahoo. So there's a chance he might have been dropped in your league. I'd at least pick him up for this next start and ride the wave with Noah Cameron because he's just been having a good year. Like I said, I know there's been more downs and ups, but still has been pretty solid over, the past couple of months overall. Let's move on to potentially our last guy of the night, and it's Ryne Nelson of those Arizona Diamondbacks. And the thing with Nelson is I joked around and I threw him on the episode, a waiver wire episode. I know a couple days after Corbin Burns got hurt. And I was like, he's the Corbin Burns replacement. He's been solid for fantasy, here and there over the past couple of years. So, add him, just kind of see where it goes. Nelson's been great. 14 starts on the year for Nelson, 6 wins, 3.20 ERA, 105 WHIP, 101 innings pitched, 89 strikeouts. And like I said, he's just been really, really good of late. The strikeouts have been up too. In his last 2 starts, he's been pretty good against good teams. 5.2 innings on August 5th for Nelson, 8 strikeouts, gave up a couple runs. The whip is a little high at a 1.41, but that's still a great start against a good team. And then against Detroit on July 30th, Ryne Nelson pitched 5.1 innings, 8 strikeouts, gave up 1 earned run, 1.13 whip. He's just been fantastic. I can't see why Nelson's only 52% rostered at this point in time, other than, people are starting to tune out a little bit. But Nelson should be kind of universally owned at this point. His next start looks like it's lining up against the Rangers, who have been better of late. The Adolis Garcias, Simeons, Langfords, Youngs, they've been hitting a little bit over there. So it's not an easy to navigate lineup, but I don't think Texas is that much better, if any, than San Diego or Detroit. So if Nelson went out there and held his own against them, strikeouts have been up of late. I think Nelson is one of my favorite, if not favorite, of all the guys that we've talked about, starting pitching wise on this episode to add. And honestly, I want to see if I can do a combined over his last 3 starts here. Yeah, Ryne Nelson over his last 3 starts, 27 innings pitched, a win, 25 strikeouts, 2.67 ERA, 1.22 whip. So he's just been absolutely fantastic. But guys, that is going to be all for today. Shout out to our everydayers. our new listeners and our everydayers for, making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen. Today for your second listen, check out the all new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And guys, until next time, see ya.